Hello and welcome to the Controller Talk podcast presented by Danfoss North America. Our goal is to bring you information about using Danfoss controls in the supermarket and warehouse industry, specifically in the US and Canada. We're doing these twice a month for now. You can catch these podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, and it's also available through the Danfoss Ref Tools app. For the video version, check us out on the Danfoss North America YouTube page. Search for Controller Talk to see our video collection. I'm Dave Yoder, along with Chris Brown. Someday you're going to do that intro.
Okay. We can flip that and stump
Chris
next time.
On second thought. All right. So Baltimore football is good. Baltimore baseball is good.
Life's good right now.
Yeah. Are people going to the games in Camden Park?
Friday night is Adam Jones' retirement night. They've already sold out. So
you can hear people saying, "Who's Adam Jones?"
Yeah. Local guys. He's a relatively famous local lawyer. So.
Okay. They sold out.
Friday should be a good night.
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. Very good.
Your Phillies are wild card contenders, right?
That's right. I think they're leading. Yeah. That's right. We shall see what happens there.
Yeah, I'll wait till the playoffs to get disappointed. Whoever does it to us.
No sense getting disappointed now.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Chris, if you're paying attention, last time we walked a lot of our listeners, both of them actually, through the Pack Controller 201 course, which introduced some of those details of the pack controllers like the PC 781A, 72A, and 783A. And this time we're going to take a step back, and then we're going to take a look at other pack controllers. Now, some of those are for HFC refrigerants, and some are for CO2, and some can do both.
Yeah, it could be a little overwhelming. Maybe somebody coming in saying, "What do you mean? I got 8-10 to choose from. What the heck's the difference here? Or why am I seeing this one at this store and this one at that store?"
Right. And every once in a while we get a call saying, "Hey, do you have something that will control a few compressors and a condenser?"
Definitely.
And they don't necessarily want a full system manager.
Yep.
Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So this kind of fills a niche there.
Yep.
So if we start looking at the portfolio of pack controllers, I'm calling this the matrix of pack controllers. I never saw the Matrix movie.
No?
No, I need to. It came out in 1999 when I was knee deep in kids and diapers and stuff like that. But
I did see that. There's a lot I haven't seen that I probably should have, but that's one of the series I did catch.
Okay. All
Maybe
right.
I had a little more free time than you at that point in life.
Apparently. So So in terms of the matrix of pack controllers, our little guy here is the PC 351, and it can control one suction group and one condenser, and you can have up to 4 compressors, with one of them being a variable speed, and then the condenser can have 4 stages or speed control. And then if you look at the total number of inputs and outputs, that's going to be 20.
Yeah. Nice little controller for a condensing unit or tandem, something. Maybe it's not supermarket, or maybe it's not part of the main rack, but it fills a void or a gap in control that some of our larger stuff's overkill for.
Yep.
Then we get the 551. So just a few numbers up in the model number, but still the AKPC designation. This one can do a little more. So it can do up to 2 suction groups, where you get 4 compressors in each of those suction groups. 1 condenser, and the condenser can have up to 8 stages or variable speed control. And you can also add in heat reclaim on this one if it's a rack. Maybe it's a small rack that has some heat reclaim on it. So you get a little more than you would have gotten from the 351. It's the next step up. Total points on this one would be 27 versus 20 for the 351. So just try to mix and match what controller you need based on how many control points you need, how many suction groups it is, and that's where the 551 might be the preference over the 351. And then we jump to the next option above that, which now we get into the 651, and this one does have an A at the end of the model name, so it's the 651A. We're back to just 1 suction group on this one, so it can't do 2 like the 551, but where this one differs a little bit is you can get up to 10 compressors in that 1 suction group. So it's a larger single temp rack. You could probably name a dozen different applications. Ice rinks is the one coming to mind for me.
Yep.
I've seen them be larger racks with a bunch of compressors, but The 651 can do up to 10 compressors for that one suction group. You can stage them on off with relays, or if there's some variable speed compressors on the rack, then the 651 can accommodate that too. And then similar on the condenser side from the other models, you can do up to 8 stages here, and this can be on off, or you can do variable speed control on the condenser. You still have heat reclaim here, and because it's the idea with this model is it's a larger rack and more control points needed, you can get up to 47 input-output points on this model versus the others.
Yep. All right, so let's start talking about pack controllers for CO2. So there is one on the smaller side. The smallest pack controller we have for CO2 is the PC572, which has this kind of nickname as the mini pack controller. And it can control 2 suction groups, and that's 3 and then 2 compressors, depending on how they're laid out. But you're looking at 2 suction groups with like 5 compressors altogether, with variable speed control options, of course. So heat reclaim is available along with control of the high pressure valve and the receiver bypass valve. And the total number of points on this one is going to be 35 if you add up inputs and outputs. So then if we move the next size up is the PC772A, and that's for transcritical and mini booster systems. The pack controllers in the 700 series that we've talked about here are modular, so they can accommodate those AK2 type modules, and you can add more until you reach a point limit. And for the 772A, that limit is 120 points. And the options are similar for the 572, but now you're basically just adding more points and intermediate temp compressor control.
Yeah, those first few options, 351, 551, 651, 572, those are completely different hardware platforms. So it's not this AK2 platform we've been talking about in some of the recent episodes. You're not going to take that USB-B cable into those. When you switch gears into the 772A, and the other models we'll touch on here in a second, that's when we're back to that AK2 platform that we've kind of been hammering and focused in on for the first few episodes. And then the other thing with the 772A is it's also the one that we promote if someone's replacing an EKC 326A in the field, that it doesn't do the full rack, it just does the high pressure valve and the receiver bypass. But for us, with the 326 going away, the 772 is the specific pack controller that we've kind of picked out and promoted and documented as being the direct replacement for the EKC 326 if you have one of those in the field that you're replacing.
Yep.
So then we'll move on to 781A. This was our bread and butter pack controller for quite a while on CO2 systems up until we came out with the 782A that we'll get into next. But the 781A, this one can be used as CO2 or HFC. So if you have something and you're saying, hey, I want to get into the pack controller side of things, but my systems aren't CO2 yet, what's the best controller? Is there any way for me to do it? 781A is going to have the setup options for just a regular old HFC rack, refrigerant types and all that. So this is one that could apply there. It's just a single suction group pack controller, so if we are talking CO2 and it's a booster system, you would need at least 2 of these, one for low temp, one for medium temp. If we get into parallel compression, you could need a third. We've got better options for that today, but if it's the 781A, it's a single suction group pack controller. It can do up to 10 compressors in that suction group, 8 condenser fans. They can be on-off controlled or variable speed. The heat reclaim setup, so we have heat reclaim, and this is actually the more advanced algorithms compared to some of these other models we had just touched on earlier, where we're maybe bringing in an analog signal and deciding how much reclaim or how much of an effect we want to have on the rack for the reclaim that we need on the other side of the system.
So advanced heat reclaim typically means hot water and air, and some more points are available to do all that.
Yep. Yeah, and more points are required if somebody's going to take advantage of it. We'll probably maybe dedicate a whole show to heat reclaim, but you need temp sensors for safety monitoring to make sure we're not getting above boiling point. And depending, again, on some variations you can set up in there, Do you want to ramp down gas cooler fans to build up extra heat for heat reclaim? Do you have a bypass piped into the rack to completely bypass the gas cooler for reclaim? So, yeah, when you say advanced heat reclaim, there's a lot of individual items that fall under that category for the 781 and 782.
Okay.
Yep. And this one also, you can get up to 120 points in this one as well. So that's your max point limitation on the 781.
And some of our early CO2 jobs probably used a 781 pack controller, and they're still out there chugging away.
Yeah. As an industry, we probably throw a lot of terms around loosely. And for me, I'll say 781, and maybe I mean 781A. The same with the 782. But yeah, there's the old 781 where the connection type was different. And then there's the 781A with the beefed up hardware and the new connection type with the USB. But essentially, in terms of application, they're both serving the same purpose and doing a lot of the same things.
Right. Okay. Yep. So the most widely used CO2 pack controller that we have right now is the 782A and 782B. And the only difference is between those two is the communication, meaning that on the A version, communication back to the system manager, which is typically the 800A now, is going to be through a Echelon RS485. But when you go to the 782B, it's going to have a different cover on it, and communication is via like a Cat6 IP through a router and then into the bottom Ethernet port on the 800A. That's the one that some people use by mistake, or they're not quite sure, like, what are we going to use this for? Well, that's its purpose there. And on these pack controllers, the max number of compressors increases up to 22, and then you still have your control, the high pressure valve, the receiver bypass valve, the advanced heat reclaim. All those things are an option. And then your max number of points goes from 120 up to 220 on this model.
Yeah, and I'd say 90% of the racks coming out from OEMs today, if it's CO2, they're all booster for the most part, and they're going to have a 782 on it. Okay. So it's just the OEM select the A or the B. That could come down to availability, what they had on their shelf. Mm-hmm. For us, it doesn't necessarily matter because, again, they control in the same way, everything tied to the rack. So, yeah, it's you probably go in assuming if you need to that the 782 is the one you're going to see on a job if you're not sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into the one on the other end of the spectrum that we see very little of, but it is there. It's the 783A. So this is our Cascade pack controller. So this one's pretty flexible from the refrigerant side, where it could be HFC, CO2, ammonia. It could be a lot of different combinations there. But this one's assuming that it's taking control of the compressors on both sides of the Cascade heat exchanger, the low temp and the high side. That can be up to 8 compressors on either of those two sides. And then the pack controller also assumes it's taking control of the electronic expansion valve that's feeding the Cascade heat exchanger between the two refrigerants.
Gotcha.
It's fit. I think it's a 4x4. So we say, well, maybe it's up to A. Okay. The older version, I think you can only do 4 compressors on either side. So it was really locked in and specific on what the Cascade setup had to be. And so it didn't always apply, even if somebody was doing a Cascade system. And then I think the other thing we see with this one a lot is people can do this in the system manager where they can't necessarily do a transcritical setup directly in the system manager. So they go that route as opposed to using the 783A sometimes. But we do have this dedicated option. It has the ability to do heat reclaim too, and you can get up to 160 points in it. But yeah, if you're looking for a standalone option for Cascade control, then the 783A is the one you want to start with.
Okay. Yep. And that one maxes out at 160 points, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
160.
Okay. And that should be plenty.
Yeah,
that kind of system.
A couple compressors on either side, maybe the gas cooler, and then the expansion valve. It's if you're passing 50 or 60, it's unique.
Yeah. Could you use that on the HFC side as like a 2-stage rack? This isn't Stump Chris. This is just a freewheeling question for you.
I wouldn't say as a 2-stage because you're going to have separate suction pressure targets on either one with that heat exchanger between them. So not as a 2-stage, I wouldn't say.
Okay. But it can be used on HFC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got I guess it wouldn't be 4.7s anymore, but yeah, it's some of what we saw on the high side of these when we've used them in the past.
Okay. All right, so yeah, maybe next time, now that we've sort of took a step back and talked about different options for pack controllers, then next time we'll probably come back around to like the 782 and talk about nomenclature and how to look at an alarm and say, okay, SD, I know what that is now, and kind of explain how it works, and then we'll get into those details.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, here we are. Once again, we're going to throw some ridiculous question at you and see if you have been reading the manuals.
I lost my white flag. I can't figure out where I put it.
That's okay. Or humiliate Chris. We can rename this. So yeah, on the pack controllers and the individual input-output modules that you might plug into the pack controller, you have some voltage sources there, DC voltage sources like 5 volts and 12 volts.
Dang it.
Mostly for transducers.
That's not the question, huh?
That is not the question. You wish. So on those voltage sources you have for transducers, there's a current limit for each one.
Yeah.
Now, I will throw you a bone here and say that the current limit for the 5 volts and 12 volts is the same number.
Okay.
So what is that limit per module or per pack controller?
I threw out my guess on this in the last show without knowing this was coming.
Yeah, better make it a good guess.
I'm going to say let's split the difference. What the heck? Let's go 150 milliamps.
Well, you split it in the right direction at least. The limit is 100 milliamps.
Okay.
That also means that you need to know what your current rating is for the transducer. Yeah,
Which is usually less than 0.1 milliamps per transducer, I think.
Well,
but I guess if we take 5 and divide that into 100, it's closer to 0.2.
Yeah, we're going to have to do some math for next time.
Yeah.
We'll see if Butchie writes in and asks for an answer on that one. He's always good for a question. All right.
Well, I'm in the ballpark 2 in a row. I'll take that.
Yeah, you did okay. We're going to have to start giving you partial credit. All right. So, yeah, thanks to Butchie must have been on vacation. He was down the ocean. And,
no questions.
Yeah, no listener mail this week. That's right.
He learned everything he needed to learn. He's good to go.
Yeah, well, that's impressive. Yeah. When they stop calling, that's when you know they're up to the top of the mountain. That's right. Well, if you'd like to drop us an email with a suggestion for topics or a question or comment or something you'd like us to cover, just send us an email at ControllerTalkNorthAmerica@danfoss.com. That's ControllerTalkNorthAmerica@danfoss.com. It'd be nice to get some emails that are not spam, actually, into that inbox. Yep.
I've seen some of that, too. Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Our studio and video engineer is not here, so we don't need them. Maria's doing everything.
One-woman show.
That's right, except for the audio. That goes to Raul Garcia, who always does a good job for us. And, we don't even need Josh Tignall anymore.
Who?
That's right. He's dead to us. Until next time, for Chris Brown, I'm Dave Yoder. Stay cool.